Hello, it's Lisa Jones, and I am thrilled that you are with me on the podcast today. I am so excited to have JC Gordon with me today, and he has an incredible story that I know you're going to just never want to stop listening to him because it's amazing. So, JC, tell us about, what happened and, what you're here to talk about.
I would love to, Lisa. Thank you for asking me. My background is actually banking, and the story I'm about to tell you is as far away from where I'm at today, from where I started. At least my background is in banking. I used to manage people's money, and I thought that the only reason why we're alive is to make money. And I was... in the early 90s, I sold my companies. I had a management company where I was managing clients' funds, and I had an insurance agency. I sold them, and I got as far away from the city's energy as possible. I live in Vancouver, Canada, and so I left the Vancouver environment, moved to a very remote location up in a place called Bella Coola, which is about 400 miles north of Vancouver, where 3,000 people lived, and I just loved the energy and the flow of everything that was up there. And one day I was out bucking some wood with a chainsaw, and it kicked back and it went through my throat.
Oh my God!
And it ended up hanging up on a sweatshirt that I was wearing, still on. But at that very moment, an interesting thing happened. What happened was I intuitively heard a voice that said, "Everything's okay. I have a purpose for your life." Just as quiet like that. And what I did was I moved, just slowly moved into a Zen-like state where everything was kind of like moving in slow motion. And as a result of that, I was taken by ambulance into the hospital. And while I was on the stretcher in the emergency room, I was like this, looking at the doctor like this far away 1 second, and then the next second I was on top of the room. I was looking down at myself lying on the stretcher at the back of the doctor's head, and as soon as I saw that, I was in this darkness. I was just traveling upwards. It was like a rickety elevator that I was in. Saw this twinkling light, went through it, and Lisa, the second that I got there, I knew that I was home. Because energetically, it is who we are at the very essence of what our spirit and what our heart is. And that's where I was. I was in that home. And it took me a little further. It took me into this, it was literally like a big round castle that I went into. And I had a very unique, my near-death experience was very unique because I had a one-on-one encounter with the infinite, the source, the infinite intelligence, who revealed to me its thought, its reason, and what it's really doing in this little thing that we call life.
Oh my God, that is an incredible story. I mean, I just want to ask a couple questions. Did you have pain? I mean, how, or was it all just so surreal?
No, to this day you can see the scar on my neck from the chainsaw, but I've never felt anything. Never felt any pain. Never felt any pain. Wow. And I remember that the very last event that happened to me while I was on the other side was I was literally negotiating, and someone said, "Hey, you've been fighting with Source, you've been fighting with God," because I didn't want to come back.
Right.
And it kept on saying to me, "You've got to come back." Telepathically, not audibly or verbally, but telepathically. And I said, "No, I don't want to come back. You have to come back." And then the final telepathic message it sent me was, "You have to come back to tell all who I am." Wow. And with that, it left me. I turned around, came back into my body the opposite way that I left, and life completely changed for me from there, Lisa, because I went from being this left-brain banker, thinking that the only thing that one can have is success in life, to trying to put it together to tell all who I am, which has been another 20-year journey to get me to where I'm at right now.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. And it's so true. I mean, there's the whole idea that success is money and accumulation, right? I mean, that's just, it's the American dream. I don't know if it's the Canadian dream as well.
It's everyone's dream. Anyone who's alive today needs money to survive.
Right.
It's just a realization of today, and that can never be avoided. That will never change, for that matter.
Right.
But that happens because there's a dark force energy of fear and negativity that through our ego limits us and kind of hooks us in to keep us there, to not realizing that we are so much more, that there is so much potential. And the amazing thing that I was downloaded while I was on the other side is that the end already exists, that the great thought, the great plan wasn't put together with a chance of it succeeding. It already has succeeded. In other words, where I went when I had my NDE, what showed how it all works and how it all comes together, and that's where we're in right now. We're actually moving from a mankind perspective. We're moving into a very interesting time, because mankind will be moving into another evolutionary state of ultimate perfection to become source, and that's where we're at right now.
Wow. And again, I've got chills just absolutely running through my whole body as you say that. And I'm just curious, so again, people need money, right, to be in this world. And everyone's striving for that. But really that's not where it's at. So where is it at? I mean, how do we find, like, how do we live in this world and still, pay our bills, but also be, coming from our heart, or, where are we supposed to be coming from?
You just said it. You just said it right there. The tough part of my post 20-year ND journey after I died, my near-death experience was in 1996, was to be able to succinctly put this in words, simple words, in that people can just say, oh, yeah, that, of course, right? And that's really the key. You hit the nail on the key. It's not to get so much tied up in the mind consciousness, but in the heart consciousness, because this is where the universal mind and 100% consciousness is. It comes from our heart. And when I say coming from our heart, I'm talking about things that everybody knows they have. They're just not aware that this is where it's coming from and what that's going on. Things like intuition. I'm sure, Lisa, you've had an intuitive moment that says, oh my goodness, that aha moment. Well, that comes from the heart. It doesn't come from the mind. Same with insights. Same with instincts. I do a lot of work with elite professional athletes. And they tell me, I didn't make that 3-point shot from beyond the arc by thinking about it. I just instinctively did it.
Wow.
And that's the same with us. To get into those heart thoughts, to instinctively know. And Lisa, this is where hope comes from. This is where love comes from. Nobody has read in a textbook that their perfect mate is described on page 343 of the good anything, right?
Right.
It comes from here. Right. And when we follow our heart consciousness, Lisa, it never leads us wrong.
Wow.
Never.
Wow. I love that. So, for example, when I had the overwhelming feeling of moving to Maui, and, from the time I was 16 until I finally arrived here, I mean, that was, that was my heart talking the whole time. It wasn't my brain,
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you follow an intuitive vibe like that, you're following a heart consciousness.
Yeah.
And that is the simple message that I give when I speak to people. I want them to know that there's so much more potential that you have, that we all have. Right now, we haven't begun to crack this much of our potentials. It's about reversing age. It's about eliminating disease. It's about becoming physically immortal. Okay, these are some of the gifts that I've been fortunate enough to help so many of my clients with.
Wow, that is amazing. And you had mentioned, we were talking earlier, and you had mentioned something about everything is predestined. So talk about that, because I know that's a little controversial for some people to imagine.
Well, from a mind consciousness perspective, it's totally way out there.
Right.
Because the mind can only take you back to the beginning. And what was the beginning? Science calls it the Big Bang. Religious organizations call it in the beginning. It's the same event. Okay, it was the spark of energy that began it all, right?
Yeah.
And that's all the mind consciousness can do, because the mind consciousness cannot come up with a formula to create nothingness. The mind cannot come up with a formula to equal nothing. Okay?
Right.
And that's why to the mind, what I am saying makes no sense whatsoever. It's completely illogical to the mind. But to our heart consciousness, to our spirit, which was actually there at the same spot where I saw everything happen before time, it's totally logical and it's totally real. When I speak, I don't speak to people's mind. I speak to their heart. I speak to their spirit. And it's so funny when I'm speaking in a crowd. I actually prefer speaking in a more intimate crowd because I get to see the energy that radiates out of people's eyes. And it's sometimes they just get completely glazed over, and sometimes they're on the edge of the seats and they're washing their hand, moving their hands, saying more.
Right.
That's because their spirit is telling them that, or their mind is telling them that. And I gauge how I present based on what feedback energetically I get from people.
Wow, that is amazing. I love that idea. So again, like even our meeting today was destiny.
It's already happened. It's already happened, Lisa. Yes, absolutely. It's totally predestined.
That just, again, it kind of blows my mind to think that everything, because then it's like oh wait, I just have to lay in bed and everything's going to happen the way it's supposed to anyway. But
we have to do our part.
Okay.
We just can't lay on the beach in Maui all the time, like I was this morning. I was
That's
saying,
right.
This is great. But
exactly.
But no. We have to do our part. And we'll know what our part is.
Right.
We all know what that part is. We are all here for a purpose. We are all here for a reason. And that's why near-death experiences happen. Near-death experiences happen. Like myself, to get my spirit, my essence back on the real reason why I'm here. The real reason why I'm here wasn't to make millions of dollars for my clients. That's what I thought I was. A little story about myself, Lisa. When I had my near-death experience, I was 39, chronologically, but my biological age was over 50. I am now 60, but my biological age is 30. So in the last 20 years where I have had my chronological age increase, my biological age is reduced. And that's what always happens with us once we're activated, and is that the biological age will reduce. And I believe that the ideal age is between 23 and 28, which if you look at athletes is when they're in their peak performance. We are always meant to be biologically in our peak performance years and potential.
Wow. Well, I love that. And I do feel like ever since I moved to Maui and, I'm really doing my work, I feel like I've reversed. I look in the mirror, I'm like, I'm younger now than I was, 5 years ago.
You look great for 22.
Well, thank you, JC. Thank you. Oh my goodness. So what are you doing now? Like, what are you, you've got a book, you've got,
I have a practice where I help people to unlock their potentials by cleansing the darknesses that are there now, the dark force energies that are now, and literally reactivating them with source, with the universal mind. I literally download the universal mind into people, and it's life changing. It's absolutely life changing for everybody. Let me share you one experience, because I know as a millionaire medium, this could resonate with a lot of your clients, but a lot of your viewers. I had one lady contact me, and I can't say her name, but she's allowed me to say her story. She contacted me after reading one of my earlier books, and when I started talking to her, she could only speak in hushed tones. In other words, very, very soft spoken. And when I would ask her a question, her answers would be like one or two or three words, just very, very, in just so much pain.
Right.
And she's an heiress, and she had grown up an only child, supposed to be a male, supposed to be a boy.
Right.
Mom and dad got a girl.
Oh, boy.
And she said that from a very young age, she knew that her purpose for life was to maximize the family estate. She told me one story when we first met, that she couldn't sleep for 3 nights because she lost a quarter point on a 90-day investment for the family that cost the estate several $1 million.
Wow.
And she couldn't sleep. That's the limitations that her mind had had given
created.
her.
Right.
And when we reached the critical point of the work that I was doing with her, I took her through the light. Now, I do all my work over the telephone or Skype. I have a lot of clients in Europe as well. But I couldn't hear who she was talking to. But usually what happens when people go through the light, they're met by some entity. Sometimes it's a relative that's died. Sometimes it's a religious figure. I had one gentleman in Philadelphia who was met by butterflies.
Wow.
Right? But she was met by her father. And they had quite the conversation. Again, I'm only hearing one end of that conversation. But after all the sessions that I have with my clients, I always do a post session to just kind of get caught up with everything, and it's normally 5 or 10 minutes. And always when I had my post sessions with her, again, very, very hushed conversation, very, and 5 minutes at the most. Lisa, this post conversation went on for 45 minutes, and I said at the most 3 words.
Wow.
Because what happened to her when I took her through the light, she encountered her father, who apologized to her for doing everything that he had done to her. This was somebody who went to school and was told she can never have any friends because they only want your money.
Oh my goodness.
It's just complete. And she told me afterwards that she was on the verge of committing suicide. So she's now married. She's got 2 or 3 children, and she's one of the biggest philanthropists in the world now.
Wow, that's amazing.
The potentials that can happen are infinite.
Yeah.
And the wonderful thing, Lisa, is they've already happened from that perspective.
Right.
We're just making them happen. And how we make them happen is by allowing the mind consciousness to lead or their heart consciousness to lead. If you didn't allow either one of them to lead, you could be lying on the bed forever and doing nothing, right? But that's not what it's about. We're led by our heart consciousness, right, or our mind consciousness. But when you make that choice to allow your heart consciousness to lead, watch the magic happen.
Absolutely,
it's going to happen.
Well, and I always tell this to my clients as well, is that if you're unhappy in a job or a relationship or really any aspect of your life, it's your heart, your soul talking to you and wanting you to, urging you,
there's a
pushing
reason.
you
Absolutely.
to make a change.
Absolutely. Well, to look at it from another perspective.
Right.
And one of the things that was a very simple exercise that I was downloaded from my near-death experience I call peaking. And what peaking is the portal to infinite intelligence that anybody can do at any time to get the answers for any issue, any incident, any moment in their life. And it's so simple. It's so simple.
Wow, that's great. So they're going to have to call you, though, to make an appointment, right?
They can do that, yeah.
Okay, good. Wow, well, I'm just trying to think what else, anything else bubbling up or you want to share that comes to mind?
Well, you know what? I have to say, Lisa, yeah, and that's your story.
Yeah.
That's your story, because I had never heard until Susan introduced me to you about your shared crossing. I had never known that type of event happens, and I think you know this, but you need to know, and your viewers, I'm sure, know that happened to you to help you in your future experience, that it helps you to realize that there's more to life. And I'm just so happy and thrilled that something like that happened to you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I know, and it's really fun. If you missed out what happened to me on my shared death experience, go back to my podcast from last week, because I read the first chapter in my book, which talks about that. When I crossed over and actually saw my husband who had just passed. Well, I didn't see him in heaven, but I was there at the welcoming party.
You were at the welcoming party.
Yeah.
You were at the welcome home
I feel
party.
like I was, and again, my shared death experience is so different than others from what I've heard, because I'm actually on the other side of that light.
Yeah.
Everyone else or a lot of NDEs are going toward the light, but I was actually in the party room waiting
Yeah,
for...
you were invited to the party.
Yeah.
And Lisa, that is quite an honor.
Yeah.
That is an incredible honor, and to just keep that connection between you and your husband alive.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's incredible.
Yeah, and to allow me to see that there's so much more than the religious box that I was brought up in. I was very, I'm not sure what the word is, but very indoctrinated with a certain belief system.
Mm-hmm. They do that.
Yeah, and by my experience of that, again, my husband wasn't baptized. I thought he was going to hell, and I truly believe I was given divine dispensation to show me that no, he's not going to hell. Not only is he not going to hell, but there is no hell. And
well, you know what, and that's one thing that I have found and have come to realize is that it's just a circular flow of the spirit that moves into this world that I call mind time and heart time.
Oh,
and
I like
what
that.
what I have also been made to understand is this time right now that we are sitting in, that everyone else is sitting in, is our spirit's hell.
Right.
This is not where they want to be. This is not their home. They know they have to be here to complete what has already been completed.
Wow.
Right. And they're just spirits are just putting in the time here because they know they have to, because it's already been predestined, and fate is making it all happen.
Wow. That's powerful. That's so cool.